Monster Beneath the Ice, written by Jerry Kokich. Exterior, Arctic Research 13, day. The Arctic Circle, howling winds, gray sky, snow and ice. A Soviet flag flaps in the harsh wind above the largest of 4 shacks, standing in the middle of a large ice floe, their sides covered with drifting snow. Supertitle, Arctic Research Station 13, January 1959. Several pieces of heavy equipment sit half buried in the snow. A man in cold weather clothing and goggles leans into the wind as he staggers across the compound. Icicles hang from the fur hood of his jacket as he slips and slides his way through the snow. Interior, Arctic Research 13, day. Vladimir Karpov, 40s, a tall, heavy-set bull of a Russian, sits at a radio console. The door is thrown open, admitting a blast of Arctic air.
For God's sakes, shut the door.
EVGENY Palinin, 40s, stumbles in, slamming the door behind him. He throws back his hood and removes his goggles, revealing a lean face and an ice-crusted beard.
Careful, my dear Vladimir. The party officials do not like religious men.
The party officials can kiss my frozen ass. There are no atheists in the Arctic.
EVGENY smiles.
Soloviev found 3 more pressure ridges newly formed this morning.
And what explanation does Moscow's smartest have for such things?
He has made copious notes as usual.
They both imitate a high.
This
needs more research.
And he has another load of material ready to send out. He wants to know when the next supply plane is due.
Vladimir leans back in his chair and rubs his eyes.
What a genius Mother Russia has produced. The same time it was due last week, 3 hours ago, which means it should get here any time within the next 2 days. If the damn floe did not drift with the current, they would not have to rely on the radio to find us, as long as that works.
What if it does not?
A radio built by the glorious workers of the Communist Party. Careful, Evgeny. The party officials do not like people who doubt the system. Now, go to Soloviev. The supply plane will get here when it gets here, and not a second sooner.
How profound.
Vladimir dismisses him with a wave of his hand and a grunt. EVGENY opens the door to leave. The blast of cold air hits Vladimir.
Damn it, close that door!
EVGENY closes the door, then opens and closes it rapidly, fanning the frigid air into the room.
Get out! Get out! Oh, how I hate you!
Smiling, EVGENY ducks out, finally shutting the door. Vladimir clasps his hands together and looks at the ceiling.
Dear Lord, please find it in your infinitely loving and merciful heart to strike down with great fury that son of our beloved motherland.
Exterior, Arctic Research 13, day. EVGENY comes out of the shack and is slammed against the side of the shack by a blast of icy wind. He regains his balance and starts to cross to one of the other shacks. Suddenly, the ground shakes violently beneath his feet, and he falls to his hands and knees. Cursing, he struggles to stand, but the ground keeps shaking. A loud grinding sound makes him look off to one side. 100 feet away, a pressure ridge rises up from the surface like a huge snake burrowing under the ice. EVGENY is transfixed as the ridge moves directly towards him with a noise like an onrushing freight train. The ice beneath him continues to shake. He can't stand the ridge is getting closer. The door to the radio shack opens and Vladimir comes stumbling out.
What the fuck?
He stops and stares at the ridge, now barely 30 feet away. He sees EVGENY.
Evgeny, get up!
The ridge is heading right for him, but EVGENY seems rooted to the spot. Vladimir sees water rushing up behind the leading edge of the ridge. It's splitting the ice floe in 2.
Move!
He races forward, grabs EVGENY and drags him out of the way. With a crack, the ridge splits, the ice right where EVGENY was kneeling, and then heads directly for the radio shack. The 2 men watch in horror as the shack is thrown into the air by the ridge, then crashes back down onto the ice, exploding in a cloud of splinters. Another pressure ridge splits the ice floe, knocks one of the snow movers on its side, then opens up and swallows the heavy machine. A loud roar makes Vladimir and EVGENY snap their heads around. It's the supply plane coming in for a landing.
We must get Soloviev and get out of here!
They turn to head for another one of the shacks, but another ice ridge cuts them off, rips open the floe, and swallows the other shack.
Soloviev!
You never had a chance.
Well, we still do. Come on.
He runs off towards the supply plane, landing 100 yards away. Interior, Russian airplane, day. The pilot yells over the roar of his engines to his co-pilot.
Did you see that?
The shack just disappeared.
Just became a rescue operation.
Will the ice hold us?
I do not want to find out. Pray for those men can run.
Exterior, Arctic Research 13, day. Vladimir and EVGENY race toward the plane, slipping and stumbling on the ice and snow. The plane skids, touch down, and the craft slows, but does not come to a complete stop.
Why is he not stopping?
Because he is not stupid! Run, you idiot!
They see the co-pilot open the door in the side of the fuselage and wave madly at them. Ridges explode all over the floe, chasing the two Soviets as they run for their lives. Interior, Russian airplane, day. The co-pilot yells to the pilot.
You've got to stop!
We will go right through the ice.
Exterior, Russian airplane, day. The co-pilot leans out the door and screams at Vladimir and EVGENY.
Run, damn you, run!
The two men, their clothing whipped by the wind from the plane's propellers, fly towards the open door. Vladimir gets there first and jumps into the plane. He looks back.
Evgeny, give me your hand!
Vladimir hangs from the open door, the co-pilot now clinging to his jacket. Running for his life, EVGENY reaches out and misses Vladimir's hand.
Give me your hand, you godless communist!
EVGENY jumps and grabs Vladimir's arm. A ridge smashes through the ice and claws the ground at EVGENY's feet. Interior, Russian airplane, day. The pilot looks back at the men struggling to get through the door, then back out the windshield. Another ridge is splitting the ice dead ahead.
Jesus.
He shoves the throttles forward. Exterior, Russian airplane, day. The engines roar. The wash from the propellers slams into Vladimir and EVGENY. The co-pilot screams in pain as he holds on to Vladimir. Vladimir grits his teeth and pulls. Interior, Russian airplane, day. The co-pilot, Vladimir, and EVGENY tumble into the airplane. Vladimir kicks the door shut. Exterior, Russian airplane, day. The skids of the plane barely leave the surface before the ice cracks and gaping razor-toothed prehistoric mouth appears and an unholy scream splits the air. Interior, Russian airplane, day. The pilot's face goes white in horror.
What in God's name was that?
Vladimir looks at EVGENY.
You see? I told you there were no atheists in the Arctic.
Vladimir looks out the window at Arctic Research 13 as the plane banks away. He sees more ridges and fissures in the ice spreading across the floe. Exterior, Arctic Research 13, day. Ridges and fissures continue to split the ice floe. Their noise drowns out the roar of the plane's engines. As the plane flies off, one ridge pushes its way through the ice directly at the two remaining shacks. The sound of the plane fades into the distance, replaced by the cracking of the ice as the ridge gets closer and closer to the shacks. Closer, closer, closer. The ridge stops. The wind dies. Silence.